So there's a bunch of words here just generally around the kind of comments and things that you need to have in your thoughtware. You hear about thoughtware in the DD sort of lexicon. It's not an IT project, of course, but picking the right IT solution for your business, for your company, for your environment is a critical choice you need to make. Pick the wrong one and you're going to find some difficulty at some point along the way. It is end-to-end. I've mentioned it's end-to-end, it's all the functions, but how the functions interact is absolutely critical. You've got to adapt some of your processes. You might need some new processes here and there, but you will be adapting some of your processes. That means documenting them, it means implementing them, changing them. It is behaviours, it is decades of old, dare I say, bad habits that we've got in our organisations. Complexities around every corner. Big businesses absolutely have got conflicting measures and conflicting objectives in large companies. I don't know of one that I've spoken to where all KPIs, metrics and bonuses are calculated in a completely aligned way. There are people who are fighting different fights in their corners of companies, and when you look at the end-to-endness of demand-driven, you have to tackle that, you have to address that. Paradigm change requires a robust program. Don't just make it up as you go along. Don't just, let's just figure out the SIM and then we'll figure out the rest of it later. And then let's just go and get any old software and then we'll figure out if it's globally scalable later. It really doesn't work, and I don't think the corporate stakeholders and shareholders would appreciate if we just made it up as we went along. You need a proper program that has got all of the proper phases and steps in it to justify a 5, 10, 15, 20 million investment, depending on the size of your company, to get back in return that $100, $200, $300 million return. You have to take it really seriously. It's not what you do as well as your day job. You have to put resources on it and support them with a methodology and the tools and the materials to make that work. The final one is the experience that I've referenced as a source for some of this is absolutely baked into SmartChain methodology. So I used SmartChain as the partnering consulting group to help me through the transition from 2015 until the beginning of this year. I liked it so much, I believed in it so much, I jumped out of Shell at the end of last year, and I'm now a partner in SmartChain with Patrick and with David in the room at the back here. Here's David, just to say how real this is on a global scale. David, just stand up and wave to folks so they know who you are. David is probably one of the trainers in the DD certified training world who has done the most amount of training in the last couple of years. So he delivered almost all of the DDP training. Patrick delivered many of the DDL training courses, because that's a fundamental part of doing the transition. Get everybody trained, get everybody on the same page. And then we've got examples of different teams across every different continent and the kind of scale and interaction that you would have making demand-driven transformation a reality. So, conscious of time, there's a few minutes left. That's all I have for you in terms of transformation at scale in a global company. There's a few minutes left if anybody would like to ask a question, or if I was not clear about something and I've confused you, apologies, but far away, do you have a question?
Yes. In some parts, good OpEx, did you actually track the change in OpEx before and after implementation of the...
Yes, one of the work streams that is we would recommend as a really, really important work stream is your benefit tracking work stream. So for that one, in Shell, we made sure we absolutely had finance on board with that, because what you don't want is somebody in a planning department making up the numbers, presenting them to finance and finding that finance don't agree with the numbers. So for things like OpEx and the bottom line changes from before to after, we got finance to drive those numbers. You tell us where the inventory records are now coming down in dollar terms, not just in planning terms, and what's the change in logistics spend, what's the change in third-party warehouse spend. So they're all part of a benefit tracking dashboard.
So they exist, they decrease?
Yep.
They decrease.
Yep.
And when you say ROI, you mean the return increase due to sales increase? cost decrease or investment decrease on the inventory? How
It-
does it increase?
Yeah, in that example, for that specifically, the ROI, I referenced the investment that you need to make to do the transformation. So IT costs,
So the implementation cost.
the implementation costs, but also the supporting costs, not just the implementation, but the ongoing license costs and support costs throughout. But there's a broader question though on, we've got assets in the company, and if you look at the ROI of the company, you can actually change the corporate level ROI. If you take $200-300 million of cost out of the business, you will see the ROI needle shift at the corporate level.
Due to what? Increase in assets?
Significant decrease in working capital,
Okay.
cost of capital, the OPEX related on the P&L. So if you are now not renting warehouses, you've closed down some third-party storage, you're shipping. If you've taken 30%, 40% of your inventory out, you see that in less trucks. You see that in less mileage on the road. And if your logistics contracts are configured, on a mileage basis or a truck basis, you absolutely will see a delta. Every location you switch on, you will see a delta in some of those OPEX related items. You could track a load of things, but to be honest, I didn't track all of the things I could have tracked because it was too much. The benefit was going to be found in so many areas, I just decided not to track some of them. Slow and obsolete is another deal.
Many of the improvements that you might find in the supply chain might come because an evolution in the volume in the market, or even in big companies because they have many other projects going on.
Yeah.
So when you do this exercise of claiming the savings that are coming, how can you claim what is really coming from a DDI and is maybe not coming from another initiative?
Yeah, that's a great question. If all of the projects that had ever claimed inventory reductions had actually delivered, we would be living in a minus inventory world, I'm sure. We've all been there, haven't we? We've all promised things. It was really interesting. From 2011 through to 2016, I took about $1 billion of inventory out through traditional tools, through IBP, through demand sensing, through forecast segmentation, all of that kind of stuff. My problem was that the targets that the company had were even more than that. And it's like, oh my God, I've run out of ideas. I've run out of other things I can do. I can't forecast any better. I can't inventory optimize any better. I can't, all the things, the traditional tools that you do. So in a way, it was very easy because there weren't many projects really happening across supply chain that were promising a 30% drop. If you make 5% improvement in forecast accuracy, you might be saying I'll get a 1 or 2% improvement in inventory level, not 30%. So it was very easy to say, look, we're playing in this space in principle. So we're the ones in 2017, 2018, 2019 who are making systemic change. So if there's a step change in performance, we went live in July, and you can see the before July figures, you can see the after July figures. It's quite easy to correlate. But also, the other thing, when you start going live and you're doing let's say you're doing a dry run, you've got the system switched on, but you're still working in the old way, and you've designed your buffers, you've positioned them, you've sized them, you've calculated your variability, you're using a system again, you use a DD system for this. At your starting point, the system says your inventory is here, the buffer wants to take you here. So you've got a delta here. You're at 1,000 pallets now in your warehouse. Projecting your DD buffer says that you should be at 600 pallets, for example. So before you even start, I'm looking for around 400 pallets different. I use pallets, it could be anything, whatever your unit of measuring. So if you say we're going to switch on in July, and the system, after about 3 or 4 months of cycle, the system is going to start gliding down to a new level of, half a green above red, wherever you've done the theory, so it's going to be somewhere there. Then I'm switching on, and so you can make a good claim to be the hero, effectively. But it's really important. There's a thing, I probably didn't dwell on it in the slides really. When you switch on and go live, again, one of the work streams that we really, really urge you to think about, and for some companies you will need support in this, is the measurement and tracking, the compliance. There's nothing worse than the reality of supply chain kicking in and happening and stopping your on-hand inventory getting to the new level it should be at. And you need metrics, you need visibility to see where is it breaking down, where is it not happening. And it could be the guy in the plant who keeps getting an order for 1 and he makes 5, or he gets an order for 3 and he makes 10. Because he's driven by unit cost. He likes to keep his plant running. Whatever plant it is, he likes to keep the taps open, the lines running, the blenders running, whatever it might be. He will be doing that, and in his world, he's doing the right thing. In his metrics, what his boss wants him to do, he's doing the right thing. So you need to think about metrics, to design some dashboards and metrics, get some system support with that, just to have an idea of who's working in the way that we said we should be working. Because I guarantee you, in that big network, there's a load of people who are going to find it difficult to work in a different way. Even though, as evangelists, why would you not? Why the hell are you not using demand-driven? It's obvious. It's obvious you should be doing this. But if your bonus at the end of the year, or your paycheck, or your status, or your whatever in the company is different to what DD is asking you to do, that's a huge, huge change for some people. And you need to coach them, you need to guide them, you need to work with their bosses, you need to work with the HR people on remuneration. There's so many things to tackle there. And I say I didn't get that bit fully right, because until I went with DD and I was able to see the planning system in the cloud and the ERP system here, hang on, I asked for that, they gave me that. Well, I never saw that before, because I never knew with clarity what I'd asked for. Not me, but the planners. Because in ERP, you don't know, the system never tells you what it originally wanted, it only ever tells you what they released. What was the shop order? What was the works order? It doesn't tell you that they should have made 1,000, but they made you 10,000. All you see is a work order for 10,000. In the DD architecture, where you've got a cloud system, DD will tell you, I asked for 1,000, the buffer needed 1,000. Bang! The on-hand has gone into blue, or whatever system your over the top of green colour would be, and you can start to track. Who's doing that then? Is it a particular factory? Is it a particular country? Is it a particular product? Is it a particular person in a plant who is making those decisions? And the visibility helps you to get there. So, does that help?
Yeah, absolutely.